The pen is the tool of the journalists. This program is called PENSDOWN because this is where the journalists put their pens down and then become the newsmakers rather than the news reporters or presenters. Here we talk the journalism gems, all the behind the scenes issues. This is where we lay them bare. Today I have been joined by editor-in-chief of the Dawn newspaper and one-time editor of the Star newspaper with over 12 years experience in the field of journalism. He chairs the board of directors of Integrated Health Center, Batoke Limbe 2 subdivision, and also serves on the board of Down Beach Hospital, Limbe 1 subdivision. He is chairman in charge of communication and relations with external communities, Batoke Chiefdom. He was pioneer editor-in-chief and former interim station manager, Manu Community Radio, Manfi. He's the regional task force. He's a member of the regional task force for the fight against trafficking in persons. He's also a member of the UN Pool of Journalists for Human Rights and Democracy in Central Africa. He is the media officer for US-based Association for the Promotion of Women and Children's Rights, with headquarters in Pittsburgh, United States. He has received several industry-relevant awards, among which are Most Innovative Editor by the Herald Tribune 2021, Pioneer winner of the Ella Jeffrey Prize for Journalism 2019 at the Victoria International Media Merit Awards, 2021 UN Women Award for Promoting Gender in the Media. I have been joined today by the National President, Cameroon Association of Media Professionals, CAMP, Solomon Agborem. Thanks for joining me, sir.
The pleasure is mine, Stephen. Yes.
Right. How did you get into journalism?
Thank you very much. I think that each time that question is asked, it takes me back into your commitment to making the world a better place. And I have a background in law.
Okay.
After graduation, I was looking at what can I do to make a difference. We wouldn't want just be a jurist and go to court and defend clients. But I have that strong urge to be the voice of the voiceless. I wanted a space, a platform where you could be able to decide what happens in the right way. And this can only happen if people get the right information.
Yes.
So that was how I got into the practice. I started off with a local radio station in my community. And thereafter, I rose within the ranks and had other professional trainings, hands-on training with the Dutch Welle. And so far, I had little spells in both radio, TV, and now currently I'm doing it.
Does journalism pay?
Does journalism pay? Yes, it does pay because you have that innermost satisfaction, which is important. Because in life, over here, you can have money in safer in the millions, but when you go back home and you don't feel that sense of satisfaction, there is an issue with the kind of job that you are doing. First of all, for me, I look at that satisfaction, that individual satisfaction that comes to your mind, to your conscience, to your well-being, before the other things that will help you, make up with life. That not meaning, I'm not in any way saying that you should not be paid for what you do, but first is the individual satisfaction which you get from what you do. But in our country, I think that journalism is paid gradually. It is a gradual process because by the time you start the practice, you don't just expect to hit it at the top. You build credibility. And at times, they will just need to say, hey, Stephen Giassi, come and attend my event. Whether you're covering it or not, you get a per diem for just being there. And I think we are getting to that point. I think we are getting to that.
What stands out as your most challenging assignment these 12 years?
My most challenging assignment, I think the one that comes to my mind is in 2013 when we flew by helicopter to one of the subdivisions of the Southwest region where I come from. There was a landslide there. And the flood had destroyed farms and cattle and property of people. And why was it challenging? Because the authorities per se had to choose who should get on board that helicopter. And I remember the local administration was in a fix because the state media had come with like 8 reporters and other private journalists were also there. And they asked him, who do you get on board? And he turned and looked at the pilot and said, well, we have close to 12 journalists here, but we have space just for 4 to make up the other 4 crew members on board the helicopter. And he turned around and said, okay, I'm going to go with Solomon. And they were asking him, like, why? He said, no, he works here in the community and he will be the first person to report about this issue, even when we return back from the mission. So he has to be on board. So they had to ask others to stay back in the city while I get on board. Challenging in the sense that that was also my first time on a helicopter going down to that area, which is quite enclave. And but thank God from the skills we had, we were able to carry on that mission and it went on successfully. And of course, it also gave back credibility to what you do, that once you're in the field, people can trust what you do and you can deliver at very in real time. So I think that was just what is reflecting in my mind as per the challenge. Another issue had to do with one time I reported on an institution that didn't respect the time of the opening of their office. And I was taking the kind of someone who fell situations and issues in the community. And I was convocated at the gendarmerie office to explain why I went there at that time and why I took the picture at that time and who had sent me to do that. And, so it was just kind of, but he said, come on, the press watches over the society and we should be able to correct what is not going on correctly or rightly. And that issue has been the complaint of so many councillors of that local council that they could not say it because they didn't want to soil their face with the mayor at the time. But I had to play that role to report on it, that the office should be open at this time. And people come, they don't get services because you were not there in the office. And I was misunderstood for something else, and they thought that I was paid to do that job. And when the commander of the brigade looked at all the facts and documents, he said, oh, this is just a thing. Allow this guy to go. He was just doing his job. So I think those are just that comes to mind.
How has social media changed the practice of journalism?
On our part, I think it's greatly affected the way journalism is perceived. At times, even journalists fall prey to some of the misinformation of social media. Someone will sit at his corner and just send a message to you, do this, or you are the first to have this. And without any proper verification, you also want to share, to say, okay, I'm the first to break the news. It has changed the practice tremendously in a negative way, except for those who want to do verification. Reason for which that us at the Cameroon Association of Media Professionals, where I'm the national president, we always do verification. You must be sure that you're talking to the person on the ground. Like, for instance, if a colleague in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, posts something which is happening in the Southwest region, we have to verify for colleagues in the Southwest region. Not only in the region, we're going down to the subdivision, we're going down to even where that incident is happening, because we believe our member on the ground should be able to do that verification before we even attest to the information so that it can go out. So we always take time to do that verification. Social media today, of course, people want to post. Citizen journalism, we want to always play their role. But again, us, the professionals, I think we have that moral responsibility and obligation to do verification before the information goes out there. So all we do, some of our partners divide it now. We work a lot on proper verification of information, particularly when it's on social media platforms, before we can validate or vet it.
There are richer bloggers in Africa than richer journalists. How did we miss out as journalists? We have been trained on how to use the media, so social media should easily have become just an accessory for us to even become much more effective in disseminating information. How did we miss out? Were we sleeping?
Well, we're not sleeping. That's an interesting one. We're not sleeping. But again, I'm looking at a society that is much more sensational than looking for it. And to some of us who are credible, to some of us who are conscious not to be sensational, even when we have the information that should be sensational, we find ourselves in this corner. And I think it's for us to change the paradigm in terms of what people like and don't like on social media. And I feel that we should continue to impose ourselves with the truth. Also, you know that to do verification and investigation will take time for you either to debunk a story that has been posted or not. And nobody has the time to wait for you to go and verify and investigate to bring it on. But so far, I think that in Cameroon, there are other platforms now where stories are being debunked, stories are investigated, and then shared on those platforms. And it's also gaining steam, it's also gaining the audience. For the bloggers, they are used to sensationalism. They are used to, okay, who is hitting at the other? They want to bring it to the fore. Who is fighting the other? They want to bring it to the fore. Who has said what? Who is gossiping the others? But I think practice of journalism goes beyond that. And we feel that the population should be able to know that if I don't get this from this journalist, then I should take it with a pinch of salt. I think that is just a natural tendency where we find ourselves. And like I said earlier on, we're not looking for money, because if we're looking for money, we'll be able to make money within the next 1 hour. I could tell you that I've made this amount of money because I know just what to do and who to talk to and the kind of information I can share to make that money. But after you get that money, what next? What becomes of Stephen Giassi after he has shared that information? Definitely, if I make that kind of money, I don't want to practice anymore. And I don't think I'll be a happy man.
In Ghana, we call it Soli. Nigeria, Cameroon, brown envelope, gombo.
That's right.
Let me take your thoughts. What is your position? What do you make of it?
Gombo in my context.
Exactly. Yes. In Ghana, the Sole is actually the shortened form for solidarity.
Okay.
Yes.
No, here it is cleared Gombo. My take on this is very straightforward. And you wouldn't want to pay me to do a story, which I know does not tie with the realities on the ground. Most often than not, my colleagues know if I go to the field after the event, it will just be by stroke of luck that you find me around the organizers. I'm going. And I'm interested in let the story be out there before whatever can. Yes, I know they usually do the preview, they'll prepare it and all of that. But it goes beyond when you do a story or somebody calls you to his office and say, this is it. I want you to write about A, B, or C, and this is the package. Yeah, I think that is the issue we are calling the Gombo, to collect money through a story which was not an event, through a story, tarnish the image of another or an institution, or to ignite something, because there are people who are there just to set agendas, and you want to be used as a vector to fuel or to convey, to carry that agenda. I think at that level, you are now the true beast, as you put it. But again, go to an event and the organizer, they have taken this position to assist in your fuel and all of that, which is honorary to what you do. At that point, you can be able to say, okay, this is it. But to go to the point where somebody engages you to do something which you know that it is not within the tenets of the practice, then you are falling short of who you should be as a professional.
You have done 12 years and some months. If we are to subtract 15 years from your age today, are you still going to choose journalism?
I think for me as an individual, I would choose it, but I would not advise my children to do it because their conviction cannot be mine. And each day I leave the house, I tell them Daddy is going to work, and they know the nature of my job, and they know the challenges that I go through. And I know that one of my sons is struggling to be more than me. But each day I advise him that you have to get the muster the courage. You have to build it over years. But I think that I will not advise them to take after me because of what the profession is what the situation about the profession in my country is. That should be clear. But to any young graduate or student who is still studying to become one, yes, this is a noble profession. And to us, we are in it by our conviction that change can come through the media. Change can come through credible reporting. But when you go back to the living conditions of journalists and the conditions that we go through to practice, particularly in my country, it's quite difficult. And while you raise your home, you don't want to throw your son or your daughter into the lion's den. But I think that they are proud of what I do. And I tell them each day, choose your lane. If you have the conviction like me, for sure, I can hold your hands.
Attrition in the field of journalism. So many trained, qualified, professional journalists are abandoning the crafts. A lot of them are going into corporate communications, public relations. Some of them are just stepping into anything that will give them survival. What do you think is accounting for this trend? Why are we losing so many quality hands?
Easy livelihood. That's what they're looking for. Not anybody can do what Anas in your country is doing.
Yes.
He has his conviction and he knows that somebody needs to do this to expose this for things to be better. And others feel that it's demanding, getting up in the morning, putting up the stories, nosing around for news and all of that. Someone just feels like you should get up in the morning, drive to his office, and sit there until the boss sends a document to him to treat and advise. And by 3:30 or 4 p.m., he goes back home quietly. But we are convinced that we must be in the field. We are convinced that there is poverty in a community and we need to write about how those people are living there so that those who are making policy can change, so that the local politicians can go there and see what's happening and change their livelihood, the benefits from what we do or not. We are just satisfied that at the end of the day, change came through our pens, through our ink, through our broadcast, through our conscientization of the public of what they should gain from those in power and what they should do to put those in power. So I think that the trend will continue, but in as much as we having some of those great names leaving the practice to corporate practice, we are also having youngsters coming up who also want to occupy that space. And I think the balance will continue to be that some of us will still be the last man standing.
Share with us your golden memories. These 12 years you have been around. What are some of the incidents or times that stand out for you as gold in your memory?
Well, I think it was just a recent, the award I had from the UN Women for promoting gender in the media. I think at that time I was the editor of the Star newspaper, and I had the conviction, I had a niche for and reporting gender-based violence issues. And each time I have such a story on my desk, I want to treat it, I want to put myself in the story, I want to communicate, put yourself in the part of the victim, and report on it the way it should drive a message across. And always give it priority as well. Priority in the sense that on the print, you're considering what comes on the front page. You're considering what goes at strategic, positions and pages in the newspaper. So I was always ensuring that if I have a story that has to do with gender-based violence, it should be on the front page. And that was a commitment I had. And in as much as you know that you have your editor-in-chief and the publisher who definitely need validate and vet the story if it should be on front page or not. You also you're ready to also put up your defense that this is a story I feel that we should have it here. And I think that was a moment for me to say, yes, my concern about promoting gender hasn't gone in vain. And when I received a call from the National Communication Council, it wasn't even you and women that called. It was the institution in charge of regulating media in Cameroon that called that, can you be in the nation's capital by 6 p.m.? In fact, I was in the economic capital, Douala, and to drive to Yaoundé is like 5 hours. Wow. And they called you at 9 o'clock. I was leaving Douala back to my base, and the call came in the car that, can you be in Yaoundé by 6 p.m. in the evening? I had to ask the driver to stop, and I jumped and picked up another car. So it was a great, great opportunity for me to have been selected for that. And I say, at times the little things you do so hard to pay off at the apple time. So that was a moment for me. I said, at least this is something that you can beat your chest and said that, okay, my little efforts have paid off. And we will continue to do what we can as God permits.
Yeah. I am interested in your decision and desire to promote issues concerning women as a man. Okay. Now, that looks like an interesting mix. How did you develop this interest? What triggered it? What brought it about?
Well, in Cameroon, issues of women are not given the necessary spotlight. We're a country where politics is at the top. Everybody wants to hear the opposition is hitting the ruling government. The ruling government has done this. The ruling government has taken this action. And who is vying for the next senatorial or municipal position and all of that. Some of these thematics are relegated to the background because the media feels that this is what the public wants to read. But we should be able to change it that this is what we want the public to know. So I was looking at it from that perspective. Women's rights, gender-based violence, issues of children's rights, and all of that. So I took interest in this domain, and I ensure that each time I come across a story of this magnitude or from this domain, I should be able to give it the necessary attention as I would have given an economic story. You know, at times also in the newsroom, in the editorial conferences, you also want to assign, no, it's a lady. This subject to her, let me assign this event that has to do with women to her. But I had to change that. In as much as I had the opportunity to chair several press conferences, I would say, don't bother. This story, I'm going to handle it. And each time what I do, I'll say, okay, you come along with me so you see how it is done. So that if not, I'm not there tomorrow, you'll be able to know that we used to work on this together and this is the angle he will take when we have to deal with this. So I think that the issue of also holding hands and working together is important. Something that we don't see much more in our context in Africa because everybody wants to stand out. But I feel that the issue of if I'm not there tomorrow, someone could say that, yes, I worked with him, and each time he's in the field, we will do this. He will always invite me to do it. And it's something that journalists should do. We should encourage ourselves in doing this. Always move together, move with someone that you'll be able to trade and work with. Like I think I have a picture here in my office. If you look at him, this is my mentor, Chief
Yes.
Kwanyi
Okay. Great.
Kemanyanko, the publisher of the Star. He's of late. You know, one thing that happened each time he will be going to the field, he will say, "Solomon, come, let us go." And
Wow.
it wasn't like I was a favorite in the office, but in the long run, I got to realize that he was trying to show me the things that I would be doing when he was no longer there. And I'm grateful that he was doing those things, some form of unconscious state or conscious state. But at that time, I just feel that all right, the boss just wants me to go with him. But in as much as I was with him, I will pay attention to the things he said, the way he goes about conducting the interviews, and it made a lot of sense to me. And today, once we're doing what we're doing, we also say that somebody could show you what you're supposed to do if you are faced kind of situation to cover.
By your designation professionally, you are a member of management
Yes.
within your current setup at the Dawn newspaper.
Yes.
Being a member of management makes you a bit of a repository of information to some extent, confluence of information, if I may use that term. From time to time, what are some of the professional dilemma questions that entry-level professionals and even mid-career journalists approach you with?
That's interesting question. That's a very interesting question. I think a few months back, I had to work on a story that had to do one of the members of the board. A relationship. When the story got to me, and I was like, how do we manage this? In fact, there was an issue where someone was arrested on his instruction. And the story was reported to me.
Okay.
And the person brought a complaint anyway that this is the situation. And I did my verification and realized that, yes, he was involved in this matter. And then I put a call to him, talked to him severally, and it was like, oh, I said, well, this is a story, and it's a good story for me. It's a good story for the paper. And like you said, at times information comes to you where you must decide, first of all, as a professional, before looking as an individual. And fortunately for him, that same night, the person concerned was released. I don't know whether he learned that this guy will not be able to ban him. This thing will go up. So I just thought that there may have been some form of a pressure on him in person, and the individual was released. So you have a story at hand that was good for publication, but time bound did permit you, and then the situation changes in the field. So at times the story is gone and it's just there. The picture I showed you as well, there was also a story I did. I investigated on the illegal importation of fuel in a particular community. And yet, the business that happens there is in the millions if you want to check on the returns for the local community. But yet, the standard of living is an issue. And also, a lot of people in power are connected to the illegal businesses there. Now, I did that story, completed, and then I showed it to my late boss. When he read through the paper, I said, so, this story like this, if you put it out there, they'll I said, so long as I've keep that story, there will be a time that we're going to put it out there. To date, as I speak to you, that story is still lying in my archive. And we're waiting for the appropriate time to put it out there. Because at times, it's not in any way you are holding information, but you're also looking at the security once this information goes out. You're looking at the things that surrounds you. And it's a little community that people like pretty know who is doing what and living where. And so at times, the journalists too, you are also conscious about your security and how you do it. Definitely, we have professional techniques. Yes, you could use a pen name and all of that. Yeah, so also at times, your security is the house that you work for. You also want to listen. If not, we would have said, okay, we'll ask you come with that story and why did you go? So, but I know that no story that is worth publication will miss its place when it's the right time for it to go out there. So I know that someday that story is going to be out there, and the impact will be felt. But again, you need to understand your context and know how to also play with the dynamics on the ground.
Wonderful. How many times have you been approached with some money or material things to compromise the facts of any story you were doing?
I think in my context, I think I've had one instance where it was the politician that called me and said, "Okay, we want to do this story. I'm running for this position, and I think that you should do the story from this perspective to project me and also downplay on the image of the other candidates." It was the recent elections for a new city mayor for my city. And then I told the individual, okay, let me see the information that you have. So he went, and after 24 hours, he called me the other day. He called me the next day, and I met him somewhere, and then he gave me 6 pages of what he had written. And when I read through all of it, I could deduce professionally that all what you're doing could land somebody in serious problem. And I told him that this is not within the tenets of my profession. Yes, I know it's politics, but again, at the end of the day, the laws in my country will ask me to defend what I have written, and all of that. At my level, at the level of our media organ, our editorial policy does not allow this. And I'm sorry, I cannot accept your offer. You can take it elsewhere. And that was how we ended the deal. And to date, we're good friends because he knows that this is the kind of person you can trust with something. And his conscience will not allow him to do what is not right. So he meets me, we sit around and we discuss. But each time I remind him that that I could not do that because of this. I have my principle, and out of the principle, we also have the editorial policy of the house, which if it doesn't align with my principle as an individual, first of all, and what the profession requires, then I don't think I will even be able to even first of all take up the job, because each time I'm invited for such this job opportunity, first thing I ask, do you have an editorial policy? Once I look at it and does not bind with the practice, I'll just turn it down, because you know that you don't want to put yourself in a corner where somebody will need to call you to do something, and you know that professionally this is wrong. So yeah, I think I had that situation which I was able to say this cannot go.
Yeah, you are the national president of Cameroon Association of Media Professionals. Tell us about the association and the reach, the membership, and what it stands for in terms of the interest of journalists in your country.
All right, thank you very much. I think the Cameroon Association of Media Professionals was created on the 10th of December 2005. We are well over 17 years in existence now.
Okay.
And we are counting close to 100 members across 8 of the 10 regions in Cameroon. In fact, by the close of this year, I should be in the 2 northern parts of the country to install the regional coordinators. So far, like you asked me, we have as mission to use information and communication technology to promote good governance. cultural preservation, solidarity amongst journalists, and also the protection and advancement and promotion of human rights, gender inclusive. And so over the years, I think that we've been able to train so far half of that number of our members. And each time we have trainings, we also include non-members of the association who are practicing journalists anyway. We also intervene when a member is in difficulty. For instance, a member is arrested. For instance, a member is hospitalized. We also do interventions to rescue the situation. But the clarion call has always remained for other journalists to be part of association, be part of journalist syndicates and an organization. Because once you are not part of it, it is difficult for an association to speak on your behalf as they would if you were a member of the association. So this is the message we are sharing each time we have the opportunity. And I think that many are seeing the need to be part of journalism association. Also, CAM is the only bilingual journalism association in Cameroon. Others exist, but you have just that there are those that group just French-speaking journalists. Others group just English-speaking journalists. But we also, at the level of the Cameroon Association of Media Professionals, we have both English and French-speaking journalists coming together to be part of the association, reason for which why we are cutting across over 8 regions so far. And we interact in both languages in our different platforms of social media platforms. We have interventions in French, and our communiques and information, press releases always go out in language.
How long are you traveling with your pen before you say goodbye to journalism?
As long as I breathe. I'm not dropping it anytime soon. It will be hard for me to put it down.
Do you support calls for the licensing of journalists? Should journalists be licensed?
I think, Jesse, this is what we are looking forward to. And in one of our trainings, it's the key recommendations were proposed to the government and the powers that there is need for us to do this. You appear somewhere and somebody's talking to you as if you are not what they sought. But yet we are the people who command what should be and who are setting the agenda. And I feel that there is that need for us to come to the point where we should get to that point. It is going to go along with the profession much more better. If it will not happen in our lifetime, it should happen to those that are coming, so that we need a solid foundation for those practicing with a conviction that they play an important role in shaping ideas and building society.
There is the increasing political ownership of the media. So many politicians and politically exposed persons are setting up media houses, from radio stations to the online space to television, newspapers, and what have you. We are a blossoming democracy. Does it leave us a cause for concern? Is there a cause to worry? Is there a reason for us not to be comfortable with that kind of development?
We cannot be comfortable, Gassi. We can't. Even in my country, Cameroon, we have many politicians who have set up media organs. And we already know that they have an agenda. And to some of us, there's just no way we can work in those facilities because we know that there's already an agenda. You cannot go beyond that. You cannot go above that. You cannot even suggest or propose at one point how things should be done because you already know that this individual has a purpose and has an agenda. And we should be concerned. And we feel that in as much as some operate as businesses, us, the journalists, should be worried that those who are not professionals are coming to run our things, and at one point, we are put in the middle of the devil and the deep blue.
Have you ever received threats in the line of duty for some work
yes, I
you were
think,
doing?
yes, they were, particularly within the context of the crisis now in the Northwest and Southwest region. And it would be like, we saw your paper, they have published this. In fact, I bring to you a situation while I was at the Star. We did a story of separatists where they were attacked in Europe, in one of the countries, and the flag which they hoisted was brought down. And we reported that story. And once the story was published, we started receiving calls from the separatist leaders abroad that we have taken sides with government and we have to do a rejoinder of that story. And they were threatening that they know the head office of our paper and they are going to attack it and all of that. They know our families. And in the long run, we said, okay, the profession demands that you do a rejoinder. So send it to us. If you feel that what we published wasn't right, okay, we'll look at it. And also the law permits us to also act accordingly. So they did a rejoinder and sent back to us. We looked at it and we also put it there and we said, okay. So it's not like we are taking sides. We are professionals and we know what we do. So if you find offense to what may have been published, you simply do that. So when you go beyond threatening an individual, then you're taking the situation out of hand. And I think that was done, and we acted that professional way. At the end point, in turn, realized that we're a house that they could trust if they have an information. And we had our independence to publish whatever we want to publish if we deem it fit for public consumption.
I had a conversation with Sir Terence Animbom, also from Cameroon. And he said that he was once forced by the separatist fighters to film them torturing somebody with a dagger. You are the national president of the Cameroon Association of Media Professionals. I use his situation as a preamble to my question. Psychological support for journalists in the line of duty. As an association, how are you ensuring that after encounters that can easily bruise their psychology, they do not suffer any mental health breakdowns in the line of duty? How is your association helping in that regard?
Thank you very much for that question. I think that this is it's a pertinent situation which we should handle. In our context, like you said, we're in a crisis situation in the Northwest and Southwest region, and the separatists, they do just whatever they want to do. Us covering their activities or covering the situation in both regions, we come across things that at times you go back home, you are not able to eat because of the images that you will see. And since you have to treat information, you have to exercise gatekeeping, not everything that you have to bring to the public for them to consume. Psychosocial support is key. We are currently implementing a project with the Canadian High Commission, Safety and Protection of Journalists Reporting in Crisis Situation. I think one of the modules we are handling in this training is the aspect of psychosocial support, which we feel that in as much as we report, the journalist needs to have his leave of work and within this time to recreate, go to some recreational activity. Because this is key. Reason being that it affects how you convey your information. I know of some journalists who later on turned activists because of what they saw, because of what they covered in the field. And it is key for us to monitor this development and see how we can best keep the journalists in the right frame of mind in as much as they go about their duty. So psychosocial support is key. And I think that next year as well, we'll be rolling out other trainings for journalists that has to focus entirely on psychosocial support, particularly for those who are reporting in both of these regions in crisis situation. that is quite key. And I think that my team will be looking forward to pick up projects in that direction for next year, especially because this year we're doing more of protection and security. But that aspect of psychosocial, which is just an element in the training, should be taken as a whole subject to manage.
I've enjoyed this conversation. Thanks for this.
The pleasure is mine, Stephen. Yeah.
I have had the honor and the privilege of interacting today on PENSDOWN with the national president of the Cameroon Association of Media Professionals, Solomon Agborem. He's also the editor-in-chief of the Dawn newspaper. The man chairs boards and sits on boards and does. I wonder if he has more than 24 hours. Do you sleep at all?
Oh, thank you so much. I should say that journalists, those who really do what they're supposed to do, they barely sleep because you are thinking about what should come up the next day, how I should handle the situation, what agenda should be for the next day. And I barely have 5 hours in a day to sleep. But I'm also thankful to family for understanding the nature of my job. And at times you leave in the morning and you return in the night, and you drop in the house and you have to pick up your laptop because something came up, you have to update that information. We don't have time. And also I'm on the road. At times you need to move to the nation's capital, you need to check out something in Douala and other neighboring cities. So you're in between the office, your road, and attending meetings and conferences. But all the same, this is what it takes to be who you are. And I cannot be Stephen Biasi. Stephen Biasi cannot be me. But we do our own part in our little corner to make it whole.
Thank you very much. This has been PENSDOWN. We'll be back next time with another colleague talking about their journalism journey. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.